season, the NBA unveiled its 75th anniversary team. Now they're ranked. ESPN's NBA expert panel voted on thousands of head-to-head player matchups, taking into consideration the quality and quantity of their NBA contributions. And here's what they got. Elgin Baylor checks in at 20, then the logo Jerry West, then two international players with Giannis at 18, and then Dirk, KD at 12, and Shaq at 11. And here's how the top 10 pans out. Kobe, Oscar Robertson, Tim Duncan, Larry Bird, Bill Russell, Will, Magic, Kareem. Then the top two, of course, that's LeBron and MJ. Monica back here with us. Stephen A., I'll start with you. Should Kobe have been higher than 10?
Possibly. Yeah. It's a tough list, and this is one of the rare moments that I really don't have a strong, definitive opinion about this list, because I don't have a problem with anybody in the top 10, but I could also make a case for 2 or 3 guys to move higher, or for at least 2 or 3 guys to be added from the list and another 2 to be omitted from the list. And let me throw this out there. Oscar Robertson, an all-time great, somebody that I admire and revere beyond comprehension. I know who he was. I know what he is. I've spoken to him on many occasions. I dearly love the man and what he did for the game of basketball, particularly with some of the battles he was willing to fight as a member of the Players Association. But he only has 1 title. Kobe has 5. I can't ignore that. And he had 2 without Shaq, which is why he wanted to do without Shaq, to prove his greatness. Number 2, Wilt Chamberlain, they changed the rules for Wilt Chamberlain. He once scored 100 points in a game. He once averaged 50 points in a season, and a 44 in another. But playing in the same era as Bill Russell had 11 titles. Wilt Chamberlain had 2. I mean, damn. That's a discrepancy when you're going up against somebody. 2 titles compared to 11?
Yeah.
That resonates with me. I think about Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq, the Diesel, the most dominant force we've seen of the modern era. He has 4 chips. Shouldn't he be in the top 10? I think about Steph Curry, the greatest shooter God ever created. 5 trips to the NBA Finals, 3 titles. Doesn't that qualify as top 10? Especially when he has just as many chips or more than half the damn list. I got to think about that. I got to really go home and reflect on this list, because even though I had a vote, we voted the top 75, Eminem. We didn't vote in order. We voted who belonged on the top 75 list, not the order. So I never thought about the order outside of Jordan, LeBron, Kareem. I never thought about the order outside of the top 3. But now they got me having to think about it, because I'm thinking about Steph and Shaq, and I'm thinking about Wilt Chamberlain, Oscar Robertson. Hell, I'm even thinking about Larry Bird. That's how deep I go.
It's the one time where I want everybody to get a participation trophy and we not rank this thing at all, because it is absolutely mind-boggling. I will say that when the 10 came down, I was a little bit and again, this is not as if there are wide margins that this person may or may not be in the top 10. But I was a little bit surprised, if I'm completely candid and honest, to see Tim Duncan in the 10 instead of a Shaq. But like you said, Stephen, you really could stay up all day and all night kind of picking this thing apart. But the only reason that one stood out just a bit, and granted, Tim has those 5 championships, big fundamental. We know how good he was. I do think that Shaq altered the game in terms of how you had to deal with him in a different way, right? And somebody might counter that and say, well, you're just talking about Shaq's power, but Duncan was arguably as effective when you bear out some of the numbers in terms of the positions that they had, the things that they had in similarity. But that was the only one that I was kind of like, ooh, really? Maybe, okay, I kind of see it.
Eminem, I gotta say this. Shaq wasn't just powerful, he was agile. That brother had moves in the post. He was lethal in the open court, too. He could finish. The brother, he wasn't just some big stiff who moved people out of the way and dunked on people. Shaq's footwork couldn't be denied. His agility couldn't be denied. I think Shaq definitely belongs in the top 10. You want me to tell you what else? When we talk about Bird, and love his clutch and all of this other stuff, are we going to really sit here and act like Larry Bird was better than Kevin Durant? I mean, let's just pause for a second. I get, again, he got the 2 rings from Golden State. I get it. I would remind everybody, Kevin Durant is 6'11" or 7 feet tall, depending on who you believe, who has sniper range ability. He is a career 27-point-per-game scorer. This brother literally could go down as the greatest scorer in the history of basketball once all is said and done. And we know that because of what we've already seen him do. He was averaging 27 a game before he ever arrived in Golden State. With Steph and Clay, 2 of the top 5 shooters in the history of basketball, it was clear who the best player on that team was. And LeBron never gave a concession speech until KD arrived in Golden State. He didn't do that before. Okay. He said we got him before when they won Game 5, Game 6, and then ultimately finished Game 7. He like, we got him. But before he played a game against KD with them, he was like, I just don't want to think about it. It's just stressful. I just don't want to do that to myself. I mean, KD is
Stephen
one of the lethal offensive players in NBA history.
Here's what we're going to do. There's more to unpack here.
Okay.
There's only 10 spots, so I'm going to be holding y'all accountable.
Oh, my gosh.
Let's take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back. And you all are going to make some decisions. More First Take in a moment. Michael Jordan, number 1, followed by LeBron at 2. LeBron's agent and longtime friend, Rich Paul, had some interesting comments to The Athletic recently, saying the road for LeBron was just as hard, if not harder, than the road was for Michael for a number of reasons. And I think the biggest reason is everyone wants you to do something the way somebody else did it previously. LeBron was a kid. The media wanted LeBron to be like Mike. They wanted Michael to speak to them in any capacity, which he probably didn't. They wanted Michael to be his friend, which he probably wasn't. They also wanted LeBron to act like, be like Michael, and he was not. Stephen A., who had the harder path, LeBron or MJ?
I'll always say MJ. I'm a bit older than J.J. Redick. Obviously I look it, although I think I look younger than I am.
You look great.
I definitely am old. I definitely am old school to the core. I think about the road to prosperity that Michael Jordan had to travel. I think about what the 76ers were in the 80s, what Boston was in the 80s, what the Lakers were in the 80s. And although Michael Jordan didn't win a title, the road that he had to travel to ultimately ascend to the point that he got to once the 90s rolled around says a lot to me. I think that LeBron James, it's not his fault, but NBA rule changes had changed drastically from the bad boy Pistons to the New York Knicks with Anthony Mason and Charles Oakley and all of these guys and what have you. And so I just look at it from that perspective, and I think about what Michael Jordan had to endure because of the physicality of the game, the rules that were allowed, some of the things that they did in terms of hand checking and all that stuff, but just the physicality that they allowed overall. And I say to myself, LeBron, and the opponents, by the way, as well, and I say LeBron didn't have that issue. When I think about, I'm not talking about the finals, because I understand LeBron wanted to get the Spurs on at least 3 occasions in 2007 and then back-to-back years when he was in Miami. Oklahoma City was young, but you still had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. I think about Dallas with just Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Kidd, Jason Terry, and those boys. And then, of course, the Golden State Warriors when we look at it. But I'm just of the mindset that physicality played a very, very significant role in terms of what the NBA was allowing, the kind of things that were going on. And I view it from that perspective, and that's why I come to the conclusion that the road was tougher for Michael Jordan.
Stephen A., I grew up watching Michael, and I think it's him and LeBron. I completely agree with this list. And I also, to a degree, agree with what Rich is saying, his sentiment here. And I'll tell you why. Because each generation of greatness raises the bar for the next generation. And so Michael's following in the footsteps of Kareem, of Wilt, of Bill Russell, of Larry, of Magic. And then Michael set the bar so high And if anyone has come close to that bar,
It's LeBron.
It's LeBron.